Throughout history, there have been many islands that have been discovered, examined, and documented by humans. However, some of these islands seem to have either physically vanished or disappeared from recorded history. In this video, we will be covering 7 ancient islands that mysteriously disappeared. Number 7. Bermeja. This Phantom Island, located near the Gulf of Mexico, was recorded on many official maps from the 16th century all the way up until the late 2000s. The island was first recorded by cartographers in Madrid in the year 1539. It was described in detail the very next year by Alonso de Chavez. It was then reported by the British in 1844 that the island had rapidly sunk to about 300 feet below sea level. However, because this island was unpopulated and not near any major civilizations, it was not officially considered MIA up until the late 2000s. In 2008, the Mexican government wanted to confirm the existence of this island Bermeja because it would have given them significantly more boundary rights to oil reserves in the nearby ocean floor. So the Mexican government sent out a team to go make a confirmation that the island existed. However, the island could no longer be found. And to this day, no one knows if the island ever existed at all to begin with. Number 6. Isle Phelipeaux. This island was supposedly located near the center of Lake Superior in North America. It was first documented by the famous traveler Pierre-François Xavier de Charlevoix in the early 1700s. The Isle of Phelipeaux was then officially put on maps in the year 1744. The island became so well known that it was actually used as the defining border between the United States and Canada in the Treaty of Paris of 1783. In 1820, American surveyors were trying to more precisely map out Lake Superior to get a more accurate location of the international border. They were able to find the handful of other large islands that were located on their map of Lake Superior, but not Isle Phelipeaux. Despite Isle Phelipeaux being the second largest island on Lake Superior, it was now nowhere to be found. So, the surveyors relayed the message to the United States and Canada, where they had to redraw their borders using water boundaries instead of this island. Some say that the Isle of Phelipeaux never existed and it was just a miscalculation by the early travelers of Lake Superior. Some say it may have sunk to the bottom of the lake. Nonetheless, the mystery of the Isle Phelipeaux is still around today. Number 5. Antilia. Antilia was a mysterious island that came to prominence in the early 1400s. The island was said to have been located near the northern middle part of the Atlantic Ocean. Antilia made its first appearance on a map in the 1424 Portolan chart of Zuane Pisagano. It then kept appearing on maps through the next 100 years and actually had many documented expeditions by historians. In 1447, it was said that a Portuguese ship landed on its shores and found that there were many inhabitants that also spoke Portuguese. From 1492 to 1628, many historians and cartographers also recorded that many Portuguese people took refuge on the island of Antilia sometime between the 9th century and the 13th century. Antilia had appeared on nearly every official map at the time, up until several failed expeditions noted that there was no sign of this island. It was taken off most official maps during the 1500s. It is now said that the island was a complete myth from the start and was based off an old Spanish legend. However, some say that this island had too much documentation from notable historians, cartographers, and explorers for it to have never existed. So did the island disappear? Did it ever exist? We still aren't sure. Number 4. Maida Island. What is described as the Irish Atlantis, Maida Island was one of the islands on our list whose shape was described in detail several times. It was said to have a crescent-like shape and was a few kilometers long. This level of detail suggests that this island may not have only been discovered but possibly studied by several explorers. Maida Island first appeared under the name Brazier on a map by Venetian cartographers in 1367. The island was initially said to be off the coast of Ireland. Maida Island then appeared on 7 more official maps over the next several hundred years. However, with each new map, Maida Island kept moving further and further away from its initial location. It was eventually said to have moved away from Ireland and settled close to Newfoundland in Canada. The island was then said to have disappeared overnight and stopped appearing on maps in the late 1500s. For the next 500 to 600 years, this island was thought to have never existed at all. That was until scientists began mapping the ocean floor near the last described location of the island. They found that 120 feet down to the ocean floor was a seamount that looked very close to what was described as Maida Island. The scientists aren't quite sure if this island plummeted into the ocean floor or if it was just a very strange coincidence. We still have no idea about the mystery of Maida Island. Number 3, Genghis Island. Genghis Island, also known as Nakanotaroshima, is an island that was placed on many maps throughout history and well into the 20th century. The island was said to have been located off of the coast of Japan with a fairly warm, even tropical-like climate. The island was said to have been largely barren and mainly composed of phosphate ore, which made it largely uninhabitable for humans without significant terraforming. It was last reportedly mapped in 1932 by German ships. However, in 1933, it was immediately taken off nearly every modern map after a failed confirmation of its existence. One of the reasons why this island may have been tough to accurately put on a map was because it was allegedly only about 1 to 2 kilometers long, and no one lived nearby. So it would have been very tough to find Genghis Island, and it would have been very tough to confirm if it disappeared. Number 2, Los Jardines. In a time when the world had GPS, satellites, planes, and ocean liners, we still had the island of Los Jardines on our maps. It was located off the coast of Japan in an area that is known for having islands disappear. Yes, Genghis Island was also in this area. In fact, this area, called the Anson Archipelago, is actually known to have sunken mountains, volcanoes, as well as islands. Los Jardines was first discovered by the Spanish explorer Alvaro de Saavedra in 1528. It would then be visited again 14 years later by the Spanish and spotted 240 years later by the British explorer John Marshall. What makes this island so mysterious is that most of the other islands in the area were mapped correctly at the time. So, why wouldn't this island also be mapped correctly? And what happened to the island? Because Los Jardines was located in the hotspot of disappearing landmasses, it is possible that the island could be at the bottom of the ocean right now from an event like an earthquake or volcanic eruption. It is possible that the island never existed at all and was mapped incorrectly to begin with. We may never know. Number 1, Atlantis. Now, you have probably heard of Atlantis before, as its tales of creation and destruction have been told through many TV shows, books, and movies. However, the first tale of Atlantis was written by Plato nearly 2,400 years ago. The story goes something like this. The technologically advanced Atlanteans attempt to conquer Athens. Athens successfully defends the attack. This causes the Atlanteans to fall out of favor with the gods, so the gods decide to sink Atlantis into the ocean. For centuries, many cultures around the world took this story literally from top to bottom. In fact, belief that the island existed got to the point where it actually was placed on several official maps of the Atlantic Ocean up until the 18th century. Now, the vast majority of scholars believe that Atlantis never existed and is just a fairy tale. However, there is some evidence that an Atlantis-like island may have actually existed. Over the last 2 decades, researchers have found nearly half a dozen sunken islands near the Mediterranean Sea. These islands were said to have vanished due to nearby volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and earthquakes that could have occurred between 2000 BCE and 9000 BCE. One of these massive islands, called Crete, we know for sure had an advanced civilization called the Minoans on it. However, the eruption of the volcano Thera was said to have wiped out most of the Minoan civilization and sunken a large part of the island of Crete. So was this the ancient lost city of Atlantis? Probably not, because Atlantis was supposed to be a massive 500 kilometers long island. That's the size of a small country. Yet the biggest sunken island that we have found is about 12 kilometers long. That's nowhere near the size that described Atlantis throughout history. Lastly, the biggest problem to the Atlantis theory is that no one has ever seen it in recorded history. Many of the other islands on our list were at least reportedly seen by some recent explorers. Yet Atlantis was allegedly around 6,000 years before humans learned how to write things down. So there's no current documentation, apart from Plato's story, that Atlantis ever existed. What do you think of these islands? Did they ever exist? Let us know in the comments down below. It would mean a lot to us if you left a like and subscribed to our channel. We are a small startup company and we could really use your help. If you want to start selling online, make sure to check out joisk.com. You can start posting items for sale in as little as 2 minutes. And if you're low on supplies, make sure to take advantage of Joisk's 2-hour delivery on over 1,000 items. That's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.